She stood at the kitchen counter like she belonged there. He was leaning against the island, arms crossed, smug in that effortless way some men are when they think they've won something. Or someone. My wife. My home. My mistake, apparently. I had given her the keys 2 months earlier, trying to be the bigger person. That's what everyone said I should be. Friends, therapist, even the divorce mediator. Be gracious. Be noble. Be above it. So I let her move in. She said she had nowhere to go after we separated. Claimed the lease on his place was expiring and they needed stability, especially with her son from her first marriage, our son for 6 years, until I became expendable. She asked, voice trembling, if they could stay in the house, just for a little while they sorted things out. Promised they'd keep it clean, pay utilities, even mow the lawn. I said yes, not because I'm a saint, but because I wanted to believe I wasn't bitter. And maybe part of me hoped it would hurt her, living in the shadow of the life we'd built. Maybe I wanted her to feel what it was like to walk barefoot across the floors I laid with my own hands. To sleep under the roof we'd once dreamed beneath. The truth is, I wasn't over her. Not then. Not really. We'd been married 7 years. Long enough to have habits built around each other. Long enough to survive 1 miscarriage, 1 failed business, and 2 sets of marriage counseling sessions. Long enough for love to fossilize into something quieter, but still sacred. I didn't know exactly when the affair began. I only knew when I felt it. There was a change in her smile. That's always how it starts. Smiles come slower, leave faster. I'd see her laugh at her phone, then lock it quickly. I'd ask how her day went, and she'd answer with fine and nothing else. One night, I heard her in the guest room, whispering. She said, I love you, and I knew immediately it wasn't for me. I didn't confront her. Not at first. Instead, I watched. Documented. Quiet. It's incredible how much you can find out when you stop reacting and just start observing. I tracked her GPS pings. I took screenshots. I hired a private investigator, not to win in court, but because I needed the truth to be undeniable. The man's name was Jared. He was 5 years younger than me, a fitness coach with a million motivational quotes and no real job. The kind of guy who spelled grateful with an 8 in his Instagram handle and wrote captions like, rise and grind, king. I couldn't make it up if I tried. I wondered what she saw in him. Probably what she once saw in me. Energy, ambition, someone who looked at her like she hung the stars. The difference was, I still did. Even when I shouldn't have. I moved out first, into a small rental above a flower shop on 8th. I packed only essentials. Left the house spotless. No drama. Just a quiet departure, like a ghost slipping out of a memory. Then I gave her the keys. She moved Jared in the next week. They rearranged the living room. Took down my grandfather's vintage clock. Replaced the photos in the hallway. Added a beanbag chair, of all things, to the reading nook. I watched it all unfold on the security cameras I forgot to mention I left active. Hidden, of course. Tucked into corners and smoke detectors. I justified it to myself as protection, but really, I just wasn't ready to let go. They were happy. Or pretending well. They made pancakes on Sunday mornings, danced in the kitchen late at night, fought over laundry, made up on the porch swing. It was a parody of what we used to be, and somehow more painful because of how familiar it looked. But the whole time, I was planning. The house was in my name. Always had been. I bought it before we married, and though she had lived there with me, she never pushed to be added to the deed. Maybe that was her one blind spot. Or maybe she never imagined she'd lose it. Either way, legally, it was mine. I started quietly. Met with a realtor in another part of town. Got the market evaluation. Reached out to my lawyer to confirm there were no encumbrances. There weren't. Not even a tenancy agreement. She'd never signed one. From a legal standpoint, she was a guest. A very unwelcome one. The day I decided to list it, I drove by the house one last time. Parked across the street. Watched the lights flicker on. Saw Jared's silhouette through the window, shirtless and laughing. She passed behind him, wine glass in hand. She looked happy. Or at least like someone playing the part convincingly. I felt a strange peace settle over me then. Not vindictive. Not triumphant. Just final. The offer came quickly. A couple relocating from Seattle. They loved the neighborhood, the hardwood floors, the fireplace I rebuilt with my dad one summer. They were ready to move in immediately. I signed the paperwork with a pen she once gifted me. One of those expensive fountain pens with my initials engraved. Poetic, really. The eviction notice was delivered 2 days later. I didn't include a personal note. Didn't call. Didn't text. She tried. She left 5 voicemails in one night, her voice climbing from confusion to rage to desperation. She demanded to know what was going on, said I had no right, accused me of being cruel, cold, a monster. But the law was on my side. I hadn't kicked them out. I'd simply sold the property. New owners had new rights. And they didn't want tenants squatting in what was now their home. 30 days. That's all she had. I didn't expect the silence that followed. No more calls. No angry emails. Just nothing. Until the final day. I drove by again, curious. The moving truck was in the driveway. Boxes stacked. Jared pacing on the lawn with a phone to his ear. She sat on the porch step, elbows on knees, staring at the street like it had answers. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did, and just couldn't look anymore. I should have felt something. Satisfaction. Closure. Anything. But I didn't. What I felt was a hollow sort of completion. Like finishing the last page of a book you never really wanted to read, but had to. I went home that night. Not to the flower shop loft, but to the new place I'd quietly bought in the hills. Nothing flashy. Just quiet. Clean. Mine. I stood on the deck, looked out at the city lights, and breathed for the first time in what felt like years. They say letting go is a process. Maybe it is. But sometimes, it's just a decision. And I made mine. She moved in with her affair partner. Thought they could play house in mine. Too bad I sold it. A few weeks after the sale closed, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. Just my name in her careful, looping script. It had been months since we spoke. Months since I saw her sitting on that porch with defeat curling around her like smoke. I didn't open it right away. Left it on the kitchen counter. Passed by it for days, pretending it didn't pull at me like an old bruise. When I finally opened it, it wasn't what I expected. No screaming. No blame. No manipulations. Just 3 pages of something close to an apology. She said she never planned for things to end like this. That when she asked to stay in the house, she told herself it was about stability. But the truth was, it felt like the only place that still gave her a sense of safety. Of being loved. Even if it wasn't real anymore. She said Jared wasn't what she thought he'd be. That living with him stripped away the fantasy. That it was all adrenaline and attention, but no roots. No foundation. No history. She wrote. It wasn't until I was waking up in your house with someone else beside me that I realized how far I'd fallen from the woman I used to be. The woman you believed in. I sat there at the table, letter trembling in my hands, and for the first time in a long time, I cried. Not for her. Not even for us. But for the years. For the man I was when I built that home with hope in every nail and beam. For the part of me that still wanted to believe she'd come back different. The truth is, she couldn't. And I wouldn't have let her, even if she did. There's a strange sort of strength in choosing to walk away from something you still miss. A deeper kind of dignity in saying, this broke me, but it won't define me. Selling the house wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about reclaiming space, emotionally and literally. She had taken something sacred and repurposed it into a stage for lies. I couldn't breathe in there anymore. Couldn't look at those walls without hearing the echoes of what we used to be, layered with the shadows of what they turned us into. The new house, the one up in the hills, became a kind of reset button. There were mornings I'd sit by the window with a cup of coffee and watch the fog lift off the trees, and it felt like I was watching myself return piece by piece. No more pretending. No more peering through security footage for glimpses of her. No more running scenarios in my head. She was gone. I saw Jared once after that. At a gas station on the edge of town. He didn't recognize me at first. Not with the beard and the change in posture. I'd started lifting again. Eating better. Taking care of myself. Not out of vanity, but because I wanted to feel strong in my own skin again. When he did recognize me, his expression changed. He looked small. Not in stature, but in presence. Like a man who'd won the prize only to find it tarnished. He looked like someone who had taken a bite of something sweet and realized it was laced with rot. We didn't speak. He turned away quickly, as if I might swing. But I didn't feel anger. Just a kind of detached observation. A strange peace. He was living in a 2-bedroom rental outside the city now. I knew because her cousin still talked to me. Said Jared had lost a few clients, and my ex had taken a retail job to stay afloat. They'd split 2 months after leaving the house. I wish I could say that brought me joy, that I danced in the ashes of their unraveling. But it didn't. What it brought me was clarity. I realized then that the worst thing she did wasn't falling for someone else. It wasn't the lies or the secrecy or even asking to move into our home with him. It was that she never truly saw me. Not the man I was. Not the love I gave. Not the hours I spent building a life that I thought was for both of us. She saw what I could offer. Stability. Support. A house. A future. But she didn't see me. And that, more than anything, is what I've had to heal from. These days, I'm quieter. Not bitter. Just more deliberate. I go hiking on weekends. Read more. I started writing again, something I gave up years ago when I thought providing was more important than creating. I even adopted a dog, a rescue mutt with uneven eyes and a lopsided grin. He's clumsy and loyal and has a habit of sitting next to me like a guard when I write. Sometimes I still think about her, not with longing, but with distance, like a city I once lived in, full of noise and lights and memories, some beautiful, some painful, but a place I'll never return to. She sent another letter a few months ago, shorter this time. No apologies, just a thank you, for not screaming, for not trying to ruin her the way she might have ruined me, for leaving the past in the past. She said, "You were better than I deserved." And I see that now. I didn't respond, not because I didn't care, but because there was nothing left to say. I'd already said everything I needed to, with the signature on a real estate contract. She thought she could build her new beginning in the house we made together. But I sold it. And in doing so, I bought myself peace.